I think Jerry was.
Not up for a logo change.
Yeah. Speaking of new faces, last week news broke that Alibaba co-founder Joe Tsai will become the new sole owner of the Nets. He's also buying the Barclays Center from the venue's current owner, Mikhail Prokhorov, who he also purchased the remaining share of the Nets from, officially putting an end to the Prokhorov era in Brooklyn. And Prokhorov said this of his time, quote, "The process of the team's evolution taught us many lessons because we launched the venture under the philosophical motto of win as fast as you can. But then we realized that in no way can you rush and skip certain steps in order to create a winning team. 3 years ago, we changed our approach, and now we have one of the most prestigious NBA teams, which the best players wish to join. This new approach also led to numerous business deals, which would help the Brooklyn Nets stay in perfect shape for future success." Bobby, you were the GM during the so-called win as fast as you can era. Was that your perception?
It was. I think the perception of Mikhail Prokhorov is, and I had hair there in that picture too, is that it should be that the man that saved the Nets into Brooklyn. And I think people forget how bad of a shape the Nets were from 2007 to 2009. We had the recession. We had Bruce Ratner as an owner. We had what we called furlough Fridays. We all had to give up a day each month as far as an unpaid day. I sat in those budget meetings. I knew where we were balancing the books. We traded Richard Jefferson and Vince Carter for 20 cents on the dollar there. The downfall for Mikhail Prokhorov was that he was an absentee owner. He was never around. He didn't sit in during the trade deadline. He wasn't there during the draft. When we made the big Boston trade in 2013, we basically had him on speakerphone. So he wasn't in there to kind of debate us. But look, he turned a profit. He was a businessman. He turned this profit of, we bought it for the debt for $300 million and turned it around in $3.5 billion that everything sold for. But yeah, I think he did learn the lesson that you can't take the shortcuts in the NBA.
Is Furlough Friday legal?
It was back then.
But okay, when you talk about Mikhail Prokhorov being an absentee owner, what's the difference? What is expected of an owner? Because obviously we've seen in sports owners like a Jerry Jones who's involved in everything. But did you feel like there was a need for him to be involved in more decisions?
Yeah, I think that the need was that you want somebody in there debating. So if we were doing the Boston trade, the Boston-Brooklyn trade, yes, it was for the short term, maybe, but what are the long-term ramifications? Where is your security blanket down the road if this deal does not work out? And those weren't the questions that were asked at the time. So yeah, you do want somebody that's in the room during that time there.
Well, I want to know your thoughts on the Nets ceiling here, because as Prokhorov said, this is now a team where the best players wish to join. We still have to wait for one of the best players of all time to join his team on the floor. But what do you think the ceiling is for the Nets?
Look, and like Bobby said, this has been a process of changing a culture, and to get to the point of now where they are, and to have a team where both two marquee free agents choose to join you, that says something about where you're at. But for the Brooklyn Nets and for them to get to where they want to go, Cassidy, obviously so much of that is tied to the health and the future of Kevin Durant. And to come back from an Achilles injury is going to be a challenging thing. I covered Kevin back when he had the Jones fracture in his foot, and that was a career-threatening injury for him. And it put him in a dark place mentally, and he was able to come back from it and really be the best he ever was. This is different. This is a new challenge. He's older. But for the Nets to become that true title contender, it is completely tied to the health of Kevin Durant. And if he can get back to even, let's say, 85% of the player that he is, they can be a team that can compete in the Eastern Conference.
Well, yes, and of course we know that Kevin Durant is joining his good friend Kyrie Irving, but there's a difference between being good friends and seeing how well you guys can work together on the court. So that's going to be another challenge when KD eventually comes back. All right, now to an update on Cavaliers owner Dan Gilbert, who suffered a stroke in May. After spending more than a month in a Michigan hospital and 2 months at a Chicago rehab center, the 57-year-old is now back home in Detroit. According to Quicken Loans CEO Jay Farner, who Thursday said in a statement, quote, "We are extremely thankful for all of the skilled medical professionals who have played a significant role in Dan's recovery and are glad to have him back home." That is certainly good news. We at the Job has got some sauce. A restaurant in his homeland, Finland, has created a couple dipping sauces in his honor. Bobby, should Nick Sauskis be worried?
That looked like that was pancake syrup. Didn't it at first?
It didn't look like it.
Is it ketchup?
It's a dipping sauce. That's all I got for you. But I'm sure it's delicious. Look at that picture.
It looks like
it means business, like he's going to mean this year for the Bulls. Speaking of the Bulls, Miss Gravity. How about Zach LaVine? You dropped this workout mixtape yesterday, showing more of an all-around game along with a few dunks. Royce, is Zach LaVine poised for a big season?
Yeah, he's quietly one of the best scorers in the NBA, averaged around 25 for the Bulls last year. He feels, to me, he's Devin Booker East. He's a great scorer on a bad team, and he's good at scoring, but
look
his
at those
team's not good
bunnies.
at
Like
winning.
I just cannot get over it, how easy it is for him.
And he can still do it after a severe knee injury.
Exactly,
too, so.
exactly.
Good score.
Ahead, we'll get into our player awards, but I see him as a most improved player.
I want them to play meaningful games after the All-Star break. That's what defines.
And the All-Star breaks in Chicago.
That's
and the
what
All-Star
defines
games in Chicago.
He's averaged 23 wins in 5 years, and it's not all on him, but that's where he's gonna. You're right, Devin Booker of the East.
Also needs to work on his defense, but I digress. We're moving on to gravity. Again, check out this guy flying through the air and dunking with the help of an elephant. Bobby, you more impressed by the flip after the dunk or the elephant?
I'm impressed with both, and I think coming to an NBA arena near you, right?
That's probably a halftime show waiting to happen right there.
Maybe the cleanup could be a little hard at halftime, but how do you practice this?
How do you train an elephant to do that?
Well, here's the thing: the elephant is the smartest animal in the animal kingdom.
That's taking
Aside
Blake
from-
Griffin and his Kia and going over an elephant. Right? So take that.
Yeah, take that for sure. Miss Present. Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeting out this picture of the NBA logo, asking if it needs an update. So, Royce, do you think the logo needs an update?
How do you just throw something out that into the ether right there? Like, should this thing change?
Into the space.
And offer no opinion of what you think it should be? Or, I mean, look, I'm not going to debate with Neil deGrasse
Here's some other logos.
I
You think?
like that.
Well, that's taken.
I like that.
You do.
LeBron, right?
I like the Jordan.
That's LeBron. Okay, LeBron Lance. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder. The second-year player, though, says he's not feeling any pressure to fill in for Russell Westbrook. Here's what he said about joining OKC. Quote, "I'm not Russell Westbrook. We don't have the same name, the same body type, nothing like that. So I'm going to try to be myself and be the best me, and everything else will just take care of itself." Bobby, given the expectations that have shifted with OKC trading away basically 2 All-NBA players, what's a successful season for the Thunder?
Well, the successful season is building off of what an rookie year. He's only 21 years old. He averaged 10, 5, and 5 in LA last year. I think he's got a valuable mentor in Chris Paul, as long as we don't know how long Chris Paul is going to be there. And here's a player that was close to untouchable in Los Angeles, and they did not want to put him in that Paul George shade. That was kind of the last piece to be added there, but the reality is this is going to be a lottery team. So it's got to be, as far as do not fall into we always see young players fall into bad habits when they go to teams that win 25 and 30 games. And I think he's got to kind of continue those habits that he had in Los Angeles with when he played under Doc Rivers.
I think it's really smart for him to temper expectations and make sure that the fan base understands I'm not that guy. And I know that it's kind of easy to laugh about saying I'm not Russell Westbrook. We don't have the same name, which is obvious. We understand that. But for people that have shown up to that arena and watched Russell Westbrook for a decade, and the style of play that he brings, and the excitement, and the energy, and the emotion, the tenacity, all those things, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, in basically every sense of the word, is a different player. He plays differently, he has a different demeanor, a different skill set. And for him to kind of try to distance himself and say, let me be my own guy, let me develop at my own pace, I think that shows a sign of maturity from him to kind of understand that it's smart to distance himself from Russell Westbrook.
Right, and draft picks are hard to chew on, okay? So, I mean, you're in OKC. What is the talk around fans about what they expect out of this season?
I think that there's some cautious optimism, especially with the front office and the coaching staff. They feel like they could be in that playoff conversation. And it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around that, having the fact that they traded away 2 All-NBA guys. But Chris Paul, Danilo Gallinari, Steven Adams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Terrence Ferguson had quietly a pretty good year last year, Dennis Schroeder. There's a core of a pretty good team there. They feel like they could be in that 35 to 40 win range. The question is, and Bobby would know better about how the Thunder might approach this, but do they want to be that good? Like, if they get to the trade deadline and you've got Danilo Gallinari, who's an expiring contract, and you're on the fringes of the playoff conversation, do you want to remain that good?
I think that what you do is you use a 25 to 30 game sample the first years. You get to January 1. We could say this about a lot of teams, maybe even like a team like Toronto, and then see where you are. If you're in the hunt in that 6 to 8 range, you stay put, even with the Gallinari expiring contract. But it all comes down to Chris Paul, right? How long is he going to be there?
What are the options there?
None right now. I mean, really, the only option is Miami down the road. And if you're the Heat, that basically takes you out of the 2021 free agent class when they get another crack at getting a player next to Jimmy Butler. So I think Chris Paul's going to be there for the season, and you are still going to be a competitive team, but you don't want to be one of those teams that are going to be picking 12, 13, 14, or maybe now with the